All right, so Daniel has up here the month of, or the couple days around the peak of the rut, November 1st to November 7th, here at the Proving Grounds.
Yep.
Our data. Last year. And we have time of day.
Bucks.
Say again.
This is bucks.
This is bucks. You want to talk about?
You go and I'll change this as we go.
All right. So even during the rut, deer are crepuscular, which just means I move at sunrise and sunset. So you can see a big. This is just buck pictures, just numbers of buck pictures. We didn't program. This is all part of the app. It's really cool, easy to use. Even I can use it. Get a little bump around noon. You know the outdoor riders. Noon's the best time to hunt. Here's real data. They're moving daylight dark. Now, if you're the guy out there in the ladder stand and doggone, that hot doe runs out there and the buck chases her at noon, man, if noon's the time to hunt, man, that's when it's hot. That's one data point. This is a bunch of data points. So daylight and dark, there's more movement at daylight and dark than there is at midnight. Temperature, well, yeah. If you think about it, you're going to be in November around here, 40s or so, daylight and dark. It's not necessarily a temperature thing, it was the time of day in this case. At moon phase, if we went out to a month or 2 months or years, you would see that moon phase makes no difference. No difference. And we know this from a lot of other research. Moon does not determine when deer move at all. I know a lot of people talk about it, some of my really good friends in business still talk about it. But right now as we stand here, there are tons of deer throughout the United States wearing GPS collars. There are little penny-head grad students all across America watching data. And this has been well published, and the moon means nothing to when deer feed, move, breathe, period. Zero, nothing. But that will be published in outdoor magazines 50 years from now.
So what Grant was showing there with the data points, that's activity charting. That's built into the app. So all your images that come in, they bring the time of day, weather, temp, those kind of data points. And it formulates those charts. You can look at turkeys for the peak movement of turkeys on your place, deer, buck, does. Even if you tag individual bucks with custom tags, you could use that data to even track an individual animal. So that's just all part of the app. And the app's free. The part that's paid for is monthly cellular service. So
which is, everyone wants to know.
Yeah, on a monthly plan, unlimited, it's about $17. If you pay annual, that's about $13 a month. And then there's pro plans. So if you run a lot of cameras, there's other plans that allow you to throw them all on that and save more money. So. Yeah, not in these cameras. No SD cards, anything like that.
You don't have to go out there and change it. You're running everything off your camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On your phone, whatever.
Checking battery live.
Where are all the images stored? In the cloud or?
Yeah, they're on a server. They're yours. So even if you cancel, say hunting season's over, I cancel, you got access to all that. You don't get shut out, and no images deleted, anything like that. So you control it however you want. A lot of people like to delete, keep their gallery clean. I keep every image.
Is there a storage capacity that you don't charge for? Okay.
No.
I gotta tell you, it's been a game changer for us, for Daniel and I. We've really learned even more about our property, how deer move, and we're moving cameras, they're cutting through here, whatever. It's been a really good tool. Daniel took us to basically a week later. We're kind of after the peak of the rut now. We know when the peak of conception is here, so we're after the peak of rut, and look, you don't have that big spike of movement, right? They're hungry, bucks are really hungry, so they're popping out to feed in the afternoons. Bucks are going down at this time. They've just expended the most energy they're expending per day throughout the year. And in just that 1 week, it changed.
What's the date? I think what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
10th
November. Yeah, 10th through the 18th. 10th through the 18th, November, 10th through the 18th, right after the peak of the rut here.
That doesn't correspond to your peak breeding dates?
Peak of breeding here and throughout much of the whitetails range is about November 7th or 8th. That's the peak. That is the peak. Based on tens and tens of thousands of fetuses. Not guessing, not observations.
I usually see the published dates. It's usually like around the 15th.
You see what now?
Published dates.
What state are you talking about?
Oh, like Kansas and Oklahoma.
Unequivocally, the peak in Kansas is November 7th, 8th. Now, huh?
Activity for sure.
No. That may not be the best activity because that's when, based on fetuses, backdating, that's when the most deer does were bred. I mean, I think it's important to define the rut. Are we talking about when you see the most deer or when the most does got impregnated? As a biologist, I'm talking about conception or when the most does got impregnated. The peak is going to be Halloween, November 1, 2, 3, 4. There's enough does receptive that the bucks know prom's about to happen. There's perfume all in the air throughout the woods. And the bucks are going, oh my goodness, I don't have a date for prom. And they're just running like crazy. And then prom happens and everybody's got a date. And right after prom, you remember right after prom? You probably slept in. Well, that's this week.
So rifle season, right? In Missouri.
Rifle season in Missouri. I'll just tell you this, and I'm not a Southerner, I'm a Midwesterner by birth. I was born right, close to here. I schooled at Georgia and Clemson. Those are the best hunters on the planet. It's humid, it's buggy, there's huge hunting pressure, it's a religion down there, it's not a hobby. And a guy in the South that can kill a 130 pretty much every year, you take him to Kansas, he's the next rock star. And me, when I go to Kansas, especially western Kansas, I had good success at killing a big mature buck in about 4 or 5 days. I've been seasons here on my own land, I didn't kill a buck. There's that much difference. In the wind, in western Kansas is really dry, low humidity, they don't smell you near as much, you can get away with a lot more. Over here, my neighbors all hunt, everybody hunts, my land, their land, whatever. It's a different world. You take a Southerner that's hunting public land and kills a 130 every year, that man or woman is a rock star hunter.
Grant, I can attest to that, being from North Alabama. I've hunted my whole life in North Alabama. And I went to Ohio hunting several trips, and it was a culture shock.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost like these deer are stupid.
Yeah.
Compared to hunting in Alabama, because our gun season starts November and goes all the way to the end of January. Going out February 10th. Is our gun season is that long. And it's like World War II for 4 months.
Coastal, I went to Clemson to finish my PhD, Coastal Plains, South Carolina, still to today, from August 15th to January 1st. Using dogs to chase them, corn to bait them, there is no limit. You can kill 500 deer, kill 550 next year. They grow Boone and Crockett's. Because down there, it's about a sin to kill a deer and not pull a jawbone and collect some data. A lot of people down there really manage their deer herd well. In the Midwest, what are you looking at deer's mouth for? It's a huge difference. You're an Alabama hunter.
Yeah, that's what I came up hunting in Missouri this year, and it was a big old deer I got. And I said, man, what do you think he weighs? He's like, I don't know, we don't weigh our deer. I said, man, we're in Alabama, we got little deer. We hoist them up and weigh them and get all that stuff.
Yeah. It's a different world. Daniel and I have to speak all these languages. Daniel was just consulting in Maine and Ontario. And then, he's just as likely to be on a jet and going to Florida the next week or Georgia or somewhere. So we got to speak all these languages. The great thing about being where we are, we're right on the line. I can be a Southerner when I need to, and I can be a Yankee when I need to. It's getting dark out there, folks. We are right on the line. And I've schooled in the South, and Daniel's worked all over, so, it's different approaches for wherever we work. Dave and his wife over here from northern Missouri, it's ag country, didn't look like anything like this. But you tell people you're from Missouri, they all think, well, Daniel and I are up there by the juries or Dave and hunting cropland. We're like, man, we're down here fighting to see a deer. It's a different world.
Grant, do you still do a typical deer survey, like getting ratios and all that? Or?
No, I don't. I got to tell you, we used to charge a lot to do camera surveys. Before that, it was spotlight surveys, which are totally useless, mean nothing. And I've just learned through my career, again, practitioner, I'm worried about how many groceries is out there versus how many mouths. And if I've got more groceries than mouths, I'll back off my doe harvest a little bit. If I've got more mouths, more deer than groceries, must be starting to rain. I see people hustling a little bit. Come on in, folks. I've had my rabies shot. Then I'm gonna so here, most of our neighbors sound really hard. We have to kill extra does because our neighbors are shooting bucks. So we're kind of, you know, we all share deer. I own 875 acres here, but I don't think there's a buck that just lives on my property. So we're all sharing deer. So we harvest a lot of does and try to harvest a 4-year-old buck or two. Yeah. So Daniel has now early season. Our season opens September 15th, so he's got the 14th to the 20th. Early season's obviously warmer, and you can see a real crepuscular pattern here. And it's, remember in September, that sunrise, sunsets earlier or later, so you see a little difference in the pattern there. Cool thing is, man, you can get this yesterday. I mean, you're going, hey, I got a day off there, I get to hunt. Daniel's consulting, I'm going to hunt because he thinks I'm in the office working. And I can see, where were the deer moving yesterday? What were they doing? That doesn't mean an individual buck is walking in front of this tree stand. We don't, a lot of times, we don't even put our cameras by our tree stands. Because that's just a little bit more disturbance right in that area, even though you could put there 2 months earlier. I want to know what area of the farm they're in and what time of day they're moving. It's up to me to be smart enough to figure out, okay, they're here and they're here, they're probably going through this bottleneck, I want to hunt here. And that's a tremendous tool to know when deer are moving, what, you know, if it's bucks, does, whatever. Tremendous tool. Now we're looking
The past couple of days.
past couple of days. Gets 80 degrees, not many deer moving, because right now 80 feels really hot to a deer, right? Just like it does us. In a month, 80 will feel good. You know, oh man, it's not 100 degrees today. I gotta do some work.
So this is a video, a little Moultrie montage here. Watch the time here. This is, and date, this is in December. That was a doe fawn that ran by, and then watch over the next few minutes what comes following. Now this is an area that you can kind of see back behind there. You can see some sunlight through there. This is an area where we felled cedars, and we were going to do some prescribed fire. Ended up doing it this spring. So there was a lot of cover, and they were coming out of that cover. That doe fawn had been in that cover, and this is what came behind her. And that one that was just walking in, he was a mature buck, right there on the right, and then that big 7-pointer was a mature buck that we've been watching. So there's 2 mature bucks behind this doe fawn, and multiple yearling, and I think there's even a button buck in there at one point. A couple 2-year-olds. And here it is December, and we're kind of seeing that rut activity. And that's when those doe fawns, because we have healthy doe fawns, those doe fawns can reach 65 pounds or so, and they can reach puberty. There she is again. And then she's going into estrus, and this is kind of what you might hear as the second rut, but it's not really a second rut, it's just another little peak in the rut. And so if you have really healthy doe fawns, you can have incredible hunting opportunities like that. So you want high quality habitat so you have healthy fawns. Here it is, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it looks awesome. We have a tree stand right here. I wish we were sitting right there watching this. It probably wouldn't have gone on so long. We would have shot that stuff. This is one way we use our Moultrie Mobile, because when we saw this come through, we knew our doe fawns were starting to reach puberty. And so we knew there's not going to be as many doe fawns as there were that are in estrus, that there were mature does. But we knew we needed to get back out there because we were back in that little bump, and if we could be in the right location next to some cover or in a food plot. Doe fawns, right? This is their first dance. They're going to they're back on that food cover pattern. They're going to be next to that food, and they'll be out there standing. They don't know what's going on, and bucks are coming around and circling, trying to catch wind of these doe fawns, and they'll be right there out in the open in our food sources. So this is a little hidey hole food plot next to cover, and it's coming out of that cover, cutting through that little hidey hole. Just wish we were standing there.
And we're have this as part of our tour today. This is
Yeah,
Jack's
we'll
lot,
show
because
you.
there's some really cool stuff Justin and I'll talk about, because right behind the camera, you'll see a stark difference. There's uncut cedars. And we're standing there and say, would you rather hunt this side road or this side road? And it is a stunning difference. Stunning difference. And our camera told us which side of the road deer prefer by far. I mean, that's another way you can use cameras, is to figure out what habitat plans are working or not working.
Green grass have anything to do with that late in the season?
Yeah, I doubt in December we had that much green browse. It was just mainly a cover thing and a little bit of food.
So there's the big food plot you drove by this morning coming in is off in the distance, and those deer are actually coming from that direction. Now, whether they were feeding there or not, we don't know. But this bedding area kind of bumps right up next to that food source. And here we are at 8 in the morning, and they're kind of coming away from that food source, working through this habitat. You kind of start seeing how the habitat and food all play together. And, you know, as hunters, we would, in the morning like that, we'd be trying to slip in and cut them coming back to bedding. So this is a great example of how they kind of move through the habitat.
I think a lot of people wait too long. You don't have to have an exact buck pattern walking by right here. I think that's another fallacy of media, maybe. You want to know how deer are using your land and what resources they're using that day. And putting that together, you quickly figure out how to be in front of the deer you want to harvest. It's all about being in front of them. And so learning these movement patterns as Daniel's talking, and what resources you're using that week or that day or yesterday. Marjorie and I do some stuff. I had a text from Mark yesterday. Not drop name, Mark and I have been friends for decades, literally. Mark's a really quality hunter, really, I'd say the best hunter of those guys. He hangs his own stand, does stuff like that. And Mark used to say that trail cameras were good for the next year, because we didn't have cell cams. So Mark was even worse than me. He'd pull cards like once a year, literally. And thank you, Jamie. And so Mark would pull cards and say, well, these bucks or, this activity is going on. Next year I need to hunt there at that time of year. Well, cell cams, quickly. And you can adjust your hunting strategy day by day. And that is a massive gain. Does it put you right in front of the exact buck you want to kill? No. I don't think so, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, but it does. But it educates hunters so much more. Anything with a big broad mouth, like a cow, an elk, a lot of the African game, those are grass eaters. Deer have a really narrow, that's built to be what's called a concentrate select feeder. And they have a tongue. Adult deer has a tongue about 11 inches long. They can get exactly what they want to eat on. And if you live in hunting soybean country where Dave is, other you all from, at Ohio, those ag places, you see deer out in an 80-acre, a great big soybean field. They don't just stand there like a cow and eat that soybean plant to the ground. They take one leaf here, one leaf here. They, through what's photoinflorescence, what's reflecting back in their eyes, and what they smell, are picking the very best leaf. That's concentrated selectors. So when you hack and squirt, double girdle, fail, burn, treat your forest, you're creating so many more of those ice cream plants. There's a lot of misconceptions here, because there's some guys that went too far. Oh, you don't need any food plots, native habitats, everything. We do both, because you can have, like us, we hope to end up with about 600 acres of high-quality native habitat. But at best, a really high-quality native habitat, really good stuff, will produce about 1,000 pounds of quality deer browse per acre per year. Okay? Easy for a good food plot to produce 5 tons. Much different. Much, much different, because even though it's green, it's not deer food. So there's a lot of green out there if you mange timber right. We'll show you some today. It's not all deer food. In a food plot, if you're doing it right, most of it's deer food. But it's much less expensive to do native habitat per acre. Just pulling numbers out there, depending on where you are, all these variables, but $50, $100 an acre to burn, make fire line, and you burn every 3 years. Well, it's gonna cost you more than that to do a food plot. I've done the math on this, and they kind of balance out, because even though it costs less to do timber management, you're not getting as much food per acre. You are getting food and cover. So I like them both. Why not use both? Why not do both? So Fred does both. Yeah.
I had one point about the idea about the native habitat. Like I said, I've been burning 30 years. Love my food plots, love my burning. My place looks a lot like this, a little cleaner now with a lot more fire. If I had to pick between food plots and burning, Cole, shut your ears. I'd get on food plots and keep burning. There's so many native plants that are so high in protein. There's 50 native lespedizes in the state of Missouri. I used to plant a really high dollar Alabama-based clover. Everybody knows it. I used to have some beautiful clover plots. One year I burned all around a blade around a clover plot. And I could see this from my dad. I had clover 6-10 inches tall in that plot. I watched deer walk through that clover that I paid all dollars for to go in and eat that fresh grouse day after day. Skip the clover and go to the native stuff. Walked over there, what was it? One of the native Despolesis. They were all eating that, skipping the clover. It's great stuff.
Deer are, again, concentrate selectors. So we had 2 years ago, Daniel, I think, we had Queen Anne's lace. It's invasive exotic species, but not real invasive growing. And I never even knew, I never learned school, never heard anyone talk about deer eating. I never even heard of it. We just happened to have a camera set up that was monitoring something else, but there happened to be some of that growing there, and pretty big buck comes by and just, 3 or 4 of the big leaves just go in. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the next day or two, someone went out, clipped some of those leaves, we sent it off to the lab where the lab folks are, and it come back really high in calcium right when they were growing antlers. That's a concentrate selector. I need calcium, this plant has calcium. I bet they only eat that like 1 week out of the year or something like that. But when you have 70, 80 at our old property, I don't even know if Chris is here this morning, our old property, Proving Grounds, we had identified over 170 different species of native plants, native grasses and forbs. That's diversity. That's rainforest quality diversity.